I don't know, if my ego didn't have enough problems until now. So when I was asked to speak, I saw the title of the lecture was going to be A Kidney Donor's Journey. I thought, ooh, I'm looking forward to hearing it myself. I wasn't sure what that exactly meant. And I'm thinking, what am I going to speak about? But then I realized you already wrote the script. Because since I gave the kidney, since I actually had the privilege of sharing one of my kidneys with someone else, I've been bombarded with questions, and a gazillion questions. But I realized they were the same questions over and over again. So I think what I'm going to do is answer those questions that many of you have asked. Question number one is, what the hell were you thinking? Question number two was, your wife let you do this? Unless they were talking to Riva and then they said, you let him do this? Question number three was, did your children have anything to say about this? Question number four is, did you or do you now know your recipient? Question number five was, tell us about the process. Question number six is, do you now feel there's something missing? Question number seven is, did it hurt? We'll get back to that. And question number eight, which I think is the most important question, and there's actually two versions of the question. One version is, would you do this all over again, knowing what it was, what it entailed? And the other way of asking the same question, which a number have asked me, is, should I do this as well? So starting from the beginning, what were you thinking? Basically, I had two core Jewish emotions underlying the action. Number one was gratitude. I was reaching my 60th birthday, and I just felt grateful. You know, Baruch Hashem, without an ayin hara, I have a lot of things to be grateful about. And I said, what can I do to share that appreciation with someone else? The second core Jewish value that I had was guilt. I saw a renewal ad. It was one of the ads, and it spoke about actually it spoke about a grandfather. It was an ad that spoke about a grandfather that said, you know, the children, the grandchildren. I'm thinking, oh my God, that's me. I'm reading about me. And just as we heard before, what Josh said, I felt the same thing. I said, oh no, I could do this. And I felt, in fact, a little guilty for not doing this. So that was the motivation. Now, as far as your wife letting you do it, that's another story. So it all started out when Riva innocently asked me, how would you like to celebrate your 60th birthday? Now, a normal person would have said something about a dinner or a weekend or getting the kids together, and I said, Riva, let me tell you how I would like to celebrate my 60th birthday. It did not go over well the first time around. But I do need to tell you, and I understand Renewal actually has a policy about this, there does have to be spousal support. You cannot do this without, if you're married, without your significant other, it just simply can't be done. And the bottom line here is, you know, the halachic construct of ishto kagufo, it wasn't I who gave a kidney, it was we who gave a kidney. And in all truth, I'm not sure at certain times of the process, I'm not sure which one of us had the harder time. So for sure, Riva went through a ton, easily as much as I did. She hates when I say this, but it's really true. It took a lot out of her to go through this process with me as well. And even though she was amazing throughout the whole process, and I'm not an easy person to live with when all is well, let alone in recovery and recuperation. But I will tell you, we had that tender moment where it was the first night in the hospital, and basically it involved staying 2 nights in a hospital, typically. So it was our first night, the first night we've actually spent in the hospital with me, and I was in a bed on one side of the room, and she was in a cot on the other side of the room. And every 5 minutes, they have these things on your feet, because they're afraid of blood clots. So every 5 minutes, this thing goes off to put pressure on your feet, and it wakes up whoever's in the room every 5 minutes, and at one point, Riva's thinking to himself, my Eishes Chayil, all night long, how am I going to kill him? My children also reacted interestingly. They thought I was out of my mind, but that was not out of character, so that was normal. And they were not all of them were all that thrilled about it, but at one point, they heard a very touching story And I think that story turned them over a little bit. There's a story we heard about another donor and a recipient, and I don't have all the exact details, but the bottom line is, it appears that the recipient was someone of means, and the donor was someone that was an altruistic donor who they didn't know each other beforehand, and the donor stepped forward, and it was somebody that needed a little financial help. And basically, there was such a gratitude that was given that my understanding is that the recipient, to this day, when it comes to a yontif, when it comes to a holiday, they take the kids of the donor and they take them out shopping and they get them clothes for them and get them ready for the hospital. And my kids are thinking, oh, wait a minute, there's something here. I'm going to get back to them in a moment. Even though I do have to tell you, my kids were wonderful throughout the process as well. They were doting. They should continue to be doting. It was wonderful. What was the process like? This is a very long story, well beyond what we have now. I just want to highlight a couple of things. It all started out with a phone call, an email and a phone call. And I actually reached out, I think my first phone call was Menachem Friedman. And he called me after my email, and I basically said, listen, I'm old and I'm fat. Do you still want my kidney? And he was very diplomatic on the telephone, and he listens, and he asks my birth date, and he asks for my measurements and my weight. And he goes, no, you're not so old. Menachem, I don't know if you remember, and then I got a 5-minute lecture on body mass index. So I did. The truth is, I did lose about 30 pounds in preparation. I didn't have to. Even the nutritionist, when you go through this process, one of the things you do is it's a great physical. You go through a large battery of tests, and one of the people online is a nutritionist. And I was told the nutritionist is not necessary, and she doesn't always see everybody. And I was ready at the end of the day, and it was exhausting, and I was walking out, and they said, no, the nutritionist saw your chart, and she really wants to speak to you. I got it. The other part of the process that's really important is how amazing renewal was throughout the process. From the beginning, throughout the process, through the surgery, through afterwards. They were incredible. And I could spend an hour telling you about them. They've been there, they've done this so many times. They know all of the details. Everything that has to be done. I'm going to give you just a couple of quick examples. My first day of testing, you have to go fasting. The blood work has to be done on an empty stomach. But then you're there for quite a few hours for other tests in a bunch of a process. Well, I'm looking around, I turn around, and there's one of Aaron Fetter, turns around, and he brings lunch. He brings me a bag of lunch because he knows I'm going to be hungry. Like, I didn't even think in those terms. On the day of actually, my understanding is renewal also, as we heard a little bit from AJ, they provide a lot of support if it's helpful or it's necessary. So for example, if an individual has to lose a couple of weeks of work, they'll help make up some of the difference so it's not a financial burden. They will help if somebody has children and they need some daycare or childcare, they'll help with that. My understanding is they even help to some extent in the recuperation process, even though somebody has to tell Chaim Steinmetz, I missed that part of the memo, so we're going to have a little discussion afterwards. If David just walked in? Yeah. Good. I'm going to interrupt myself for a couple of moments, and we'll come back to you.
Rabosai, if you recall from my remarks earlier, that the Rosh Yeshiva Reb David Shlita played a very important role in our campaign. This is the Rosh Yeshiva who cares about everybody in Klal Yisrael, and cares about everybody in the Lower East Side because we're all part of the Rosh Yeshiva's extended family. It's a big kavod, it's chus for all of us here to get divrei chizuk from the Rosh Yeshiva Reb David Feinstein Shlita. It's a big chus that the Rosh Yeshiva has graced us with his presence.
I just want to make mention that the Rosh Yeshiva really was very instrumental when Renewal started. Renewal was looking towards Rabbanim to help us to navigate, certainly within the world of halacha and hashkafa, and to figure out how to best do this. And Rav David really, the Rosh Yeshiva Shlita was very, very instrumental in bringing Renewal to where it is today, and we owe a tremendous debt of gratitude and something that cannot be repaid. So a thank you on behalf of Renewal.
I'm sorry, I know you thought you were done with me. I'm back. A couple more things about that process also as far as renewal was concerned. One of the things that was really very important, and I know she's not here because she would be very hesitant if I would be embarrassing her, but one of the donor advocates throughout the process, before, during, and after, also did something that it never would have occurred to me. She reached out to Riva. And it was incredibly helpful. Toby Fetter is who it is, so when she sees the video, if she sees it, she'll know a thank you. It was just incredibly sensitive and incredibly helpful to think about not just me, but to think about Riva as well. It was really wonderful. No, to answer that next question, I don't feel anything missing. People ask me which kidney it was, and I have to tell you in truth, I know they told me at the time, I don't remember, and I don't think it really matters. The more important question is, and it's a more involved question, and it gets to the very end, is did it hurt? Yeah, it hurt. It's surgery. This is not a walk in the park. It is surgery. Even though I have to tell you what I found in speaking to other donors is that there really is a range. Everybody takes this differently. So I spoke to, for example, Rabbi Leibowitz from the Five Towns. I listened to a shir about this from him at one point, and he spoke about a tremendous discomfort. I'm thinking, really? A tremendous discomfort? So I spoke to him. I saw him a couple of weeks ago, and I was not all that thrilled with his choice of words. But he said, in truth, he really didn't have that much pain. He said, in his case, Baruch Hashem, in his case, there wasn't. I will tell you the other extreme. Riva and I had the chance to walk up to a donor a few weeks ago at NYU on Shabbos, and I don't want to give you the wrong impression. She was thrilled about what she did, and she was extremely ecstatic about it. But she said she really underestimated how much it hurt. She underestimated the pain. It's a process. You're going through surgery, you're in the hospital for a couple of days, and it is what it is. But here's the most important thing. And I'm going to go out on a limb because there are no shills in the audience. I didn't ask them this question beforehand, but I'm going to ask them now because there were 3 other donors in the room. And here's the critical question. Where are you? AJ. Knowing all what you went through, the process getting up to it, and pay attention, and Aviva, pay attention because we're coming back to you. All of whatever it was, the process, the nuisance, the discomfort, the recuperation, all of that. If you knew all of that going in ahead of time, and you had that knowledge, would you still have done what you did?
I think I can answer for everybody before we even get to them. We only regret one thing, and that's that we can't do it again.
That's truth. That's very true. This was just a donation 2 months ago, just so we're clear. So we're not talking about a year or two ago. This is quite early on. Aviva. And even though it took you a little bit while till you could sleep on your tummy again. Okay, and that's exactly the point. That's exactly the point. For all of us, the bottom line is, it's old news. I don't want to make it less than it was. It was something. But it's old news. It's done. We did it. Move on. What's next? It's fine. For the recipients, it's not old news. What Meira did before, what she said was unbelievable. There's very little I can add to that. You talk to recipients, and their lives, before they get a kidney, are very difficult. They're very challenging. The statistics for dialysis are not good. From she said it more. I can't add to it. When you are my own recipient, I did not know my recipient. That's also important. I had no idea who my recipient was. It's a relevant story for 2 moments. It's probably one of mine, so it's okay. I did not know my recipient. In fact, originally I was matched up with somebody who it turned out was a traditional Jew, not religious at all, and as far as I was concerned, that was absolutely fine. They actually asked me, and I said, 100%. I can't value one life over another. It turned out about 5 days beforehand, I got a phone call from Rabbi Steinmetz who said something happened and that recipient had a setback, which is not that unusual. It wasn't a permanent setback, but it would be a number of months before he was eligible for a kidney. And I asked, okay, what do I do? And they said, no, you're going forward. We have somebody right here now ready to take your kidney that's matched. Turned out he was religious, they told me that. After I gave the donation, I found out that he's somebody who's retired, Russian, a Georgian actually. He's retired. He's a Talmud Chacham. He sits and learns all day. That's what he does with his time. I'm thinking, oh my God, my kidney got an upgrade. Of course, when I share it with my family, my kids go, oh yeah, Abba got the guy who sits and learns all day. But that's the point. For the recipients, and that's where I was going. When I met him this week for the first time, actually, Reva and I went last week on Monday, we met him for the first time. And his opening words to me were, "You gave me life." And that's the reality. It's not just quantity of life, it's quality of life. And I don't know how much public knowledge it is yet. There's somebody here in our community who eventually, I'm sure, will come out, who is in need of a kidney. A while ago, I heard when Renewal does all of the Instagram stuff and the social media, I saw a video of somebody about to give a kidney, and she goes, "Just do it." That was her opening line. She goes, she's about to be wheeled in, she goes, "Just do it." I thought that was a little bit too much. This is a serious thing. You need to think about a moment. But man, oh man, the schus, the privilege of having the schus of giving this to someone else. So perhaps it's too much to say just do it, but just think about it. Put it on your agenda and think about it long and hard. And there's so many people in need. Step up. It's an incredible, incredible privilege. Thank you so, so much. Oh, thank you, Leah Shea, for the picture taking. And happy birthday, Norman.